Maniac Cop is a supernatural thriller that fails at being supernatural or a thriller. Before Jason took Manhattan, the streets of New York City belonged to a former police officer, now Maniac Cop, Matt Cordell, a man who has zero supernatural abilities, even though he's bulletproof and doesn't breathe.
He wasn't breathing.
Go back in time with me as we epically review a movie about the slowest non-supernatural killer in the history of horror, who can also apparently teleport, again, without any supernatural powers at all.
Matt, where are you?
Yeah, it's the 80s. It's gonna be that kind of movie. It's a typical New York City night, and we meet a waitress who could part-time as a psychic.
Sure, I can't give you a lift?
I'd rather face the muggers.
She faces muggers who, well, suck at mugging. After beating two professional New York City muggers with a ninja nunchuck pillow purse, she runs toward a New York City police officer screaming,
Officer?
6 times. The officer can't stand her voice, so he quiets her down by snapping her neck. The New York City Police Department does better police work than any other agency anywhere else in the world and arrests these two sucky muggers who give them this confession.
It was a cop, man, a big cop!
Lieutenant McCrae and his partner, Homicide Detective Lovejoy, who gets sick at the sight of dead bodies, meet the medical examiner who tells them in the weirdest way possible the waitress is dead, even though her left foot twitches. Due to her injuries, Lieutenant McCrae starts to believe that a cop could be responsible. That night, this innocent drunk driving couple have a run-in with Maniac Cop at a stoplight. She tells Dan, the driver of the car, to ditch her beer.
Cop, ditch the beer.
The killer points his finger for Dan to follow, and this drunk dumb girl tells him the obvious.
I think he wants you to go with him.
Dan starts field sobriety like he's done this before when he's killed, and slowly floats onto the windshield. In a fit of overdramatic drunk acting, she climbs in the driver's seat and crazily speeds away. Lieutenant McCrae believes this to be the work of a maniac cop in his city. He's told by Commissioner Shaft to keep quiet so it doesn't get out to the public. It's nighttime in the Big Apple and Maniac Cop is out killing again. Maniac Cop quickly handcuffs this random guy and then lets him run like 5 city blocks, screaming for help, while he just stands there. After rubbing his nose on all these buttons, random guy trips face first into wet cement, and Maniac Cop suddenly, yet not supernaturally, teleports, killing him, and no one finds his body until daylight. Tired of all the killing, Lieutenant McCrae meets with this journalist to do what Shaft told him not to do, which is leak everything to the press to protect the public.
But I want you to break it on your late news show tonight.
The news breaks on the radio about a uniformed cop killing innocent people, and immediately this frightened old woman, packing a gat, shoots this 12-year-old police officer. Commissioner Shaft is now one angry mother. We're introduced to Captain Ripley, who believes people write letters to cops, accusing them of being killers when they get a traffic ticket.
A cop gives you a parking ticket, so what do? Naturally, you write in a letter accusing him of being a killer, right?
Because that's sound logic. And then he turns into a dirty old prison guard.
I'm gonna nail this bastard.
We are only 20 minutes into the movie, and now we meet our main character, Ash Williams, or Jack Forrest in this movie. Jack's wife keeps newspaper clippings of the killings and thinks he could possibly be the Maniac Cop. Even though she keeps these clippings, she doesn't read them, because Lieutenant Detective McCrae said the killer is well over 6 foot tall,
For a white man well over 6 feet tall.
while our boy Jack is barely 6'1". This couple, whose marriage is on the rocks, have a weird conversation, which further makes her think Jack is the killer. After he leaves for work, she gets a strange phone call from a woman asking her why her husband keeps killing people. This makes her follow Jack down the street, where she finds him in a hotel bed with another police officer. Turns out Jack's not a killer, he's just a POS cheater. We hear soft lovemaking noises coming from the bedroom, but when Jack's wife comes in, the two are turned like this. So what kind of kinky weird crap is Jack into? After running out of the room, she's snatched into a van by the Maniac Cop. It's the next day and her dead body is found by a maid in the same bed where Jack and his floozy cop girlfriend made weird whoopee, Captain Ripley, who wears his sunglasses inside, confronts Jack about his dead wife, and he's interrogated with the newspaper clippings his wife collected about the real killer. In good old 80s fashion, his attorney shows up while he's being interrogated. Captain Ripley says they read Jack his Miranda rights and advised him that he elected to make a statement. His lawyer, who must have forgot his law license in his other suit jacket, replies with,
"That's inadmissible."
When did a suspect's freely given statement after being read his Miranda rights become inadmissible in court? Jack realizes he's on the hook for murdering his wife and being framed to be the maniac killer cop. He claims he has an alibi in his floozy cop girlfriend but doesn't want to name her because being a cop in a fling with an accused killer is a career ruiner. It's apparently better for you to just go to prison as a cop for a crime you didn't commit than to ruin your floozy girlfriend's career. Lieutenant McCrae meets with Jack, who finally reveals that his alibi is another cop named Teresa Mallory. Jack's girlfriend, Officer Mallory, is posing as the worst undercover prostitute ever as she lets the Johns go when they try to pick her up. During a smoke break, she sees Maniac Cop weirdly walking down this dark alley. Officer Prostitute says she's a cop and then holds her badge upside down. Maniac Cop, with thick gloves on, grabs her by the throat, but she's able to escape. She pulls her gun and fires 6 shots into his body. Lieutenant McCrae shows up and fires 4 shots into him as well, but this non-supernatural maniac cop once again somehow teleports away, even with Officer Prostitute looking right at him. Officer Prostitute says she shot him in the head at least twice.
I hit him in the head at least twice.
And that his hands are so big and even felt like ice, even through his gloves.
His hands were so big, and they felt like ice, even through his gloves.
Oh yeah, and she also says the non-supernatural maniac cop wasn't breathing.
He wasn't breathing.
She tells Lieutenant McCrae the only other person who knows about her and Jack is the precinct's record keeper, Sally. He becomes suspicious of her and thinks she could be responsible for helping to set Jack up as the maniac cop. Lieutenant McCrae begins following Sally, and the movie shows us the whole drive to a pier where she meets with the maniac cop, who is just nonchalantly chilling in this chair in full dress uniform. She pleads with the maniac cop to stop killing innocent people and to only kill those who did him wrong. Lieutenant McClumsy knocks over a board, and Sally, who doesn't want any more innocent people to die, fires indiscriminately into the pier because
I was just jumping.
that's just stupid. Maniac Cop, who again does not have supernatural abilities, vanishes without a sound. Lieutenant McCrae is confronted by this security guard who lets criminal trespassing slide because McCrae
I had to take a leak.
and delivers probably the only good line in this movie.
Put a gun in your hand? It's a good way to blow your balls off.
Lieutenant McCrae discovers that Maniac Cop was his hero, a former police officer named Matt Cordell, who was sentenced to Sing Sing prison for his excessive police brutality. This cop says,
It was a crime what those politicians did to him. Putting him in Sing Sing with all those criminals he'd been chasing all those years. It was like handing him a death sentence.
this movie honestly wants you to feel sorry for a cop who committed police brutality and now kills innocent people. Non-supernatural maniac cop sleeps at the pier in full dress uniform. And through a dream sequence, we get a glimpse of 3 dudes jumping him in the shower. He's stabbed, and he falls to the floor, where he's stabbed more, and his face is slashed open. Officer Prostitute and Lieutenant McCrae meet Jack in jail, and they tell him they know who's killing innocent people.
Detective Matt Cordell.
Jack asks,
Yeah, but how could he get out of prison alive?
"Don't worry. This potentiality for supernatural ability is completely but stupidly explained away later." Lieutenant McCrae tells Jack he's meeting with the chief medical examiner at the prison to find out. He then leaves the room so Jack and Officer Prostitute can have a conjugal visit, which is interrupted by Maniac Cop, doing this to Sally. Jack tells Officer Prostitute to go sit in Lieutenant McCrae's car, and he goes after the Maniac Cop, who has killed all the cops in this precinct. Maniac Cop slams Lieutenant McCrae into every filing cabinet in this city before throwing him out of a window so he can give Officer Prostitute his car keys. Jack is confronted by Detective Lovejoy, who can't handle dead bodies or punches to the face. Jack and Officer Prostitute keep Lieutenant McCrae's appointment with the prison's chief medical examiner. Turns out, when you're wanted by cops in New York for killing cops in New York, the best place to hide out is a prison in New York. The chief medical examiner tells Jack when Cordell came to him after the shower beating, there were signs of life, so he awkwardly gave him CPR like this. He says he was certain Matt Cordell was legally brain dead and there was no way he could function as a human being again. Keep in mind, this movie just explained away the possibilities of Maniac Cop being a supernatural being with a simple misdiagnosis. Officer Prostitute goes to Commissioner Shaft to tell him Maniac Cop is the one doing the killing, and she gets arrested for accessory to first-degree murder. Maniac Cop sneaks in, shutting Shaft's mouth forever, and RIPing Captain Ripley. Maniac Cop traps Officer Prostitute in this room where she throws a chair through the window to get the attention of the other cops on the streets below, but they spot Jack instead. They arrest Jack, loading him up into this police van, which Maniac Cop steals and drives off. Officer Prostitute tells this newbie cop the killer's in the paddy wagon, and he just trusts her. Officer Newbie and Officer Prostitute follow the van in a car chase, and we literally get to see a second full chase scene from City Hall all the way to Maniac Cop's stupid secret hideout, while Maniac Cop is running into every car he sees in his attempt to get away. Officer Newbie is jumping entire roads for no reason at all. Keep in mind, Jack is in the back and he's doing this the whole time. Maniac Cop finally gets his hands on Jack and we come face to face with the makeup department's very low budget. Officer Prostitute arrives just in time to give Maniac Cop her shotgun. After a brief karate session and a backhand to the face, Maniac Cop gets in the police van, driving it straight toward the water for no reason at all. Maniac Cop impales himself as he drives off into the ocean. The movie closes with the absolute worst strategical effort by the police. I know by now I shouldn't expect anything more. In all the time it takes for divers to arrive, gear up, dive down, and hook up the van to be able to pull it up like this, not one cop is patrolling the water. The police all have their guns locked and loaded, so they let unarmed Jack and Officer Prostitute, along with this photographer, be the first to inspect the van which might hold the real killer. The last we see of Maniac Cop is this ungloved, non-supernatural hand coming out of the unpatrolled water, until this straight-to-video sequel in 1990.